I used to think that independence was the only armor a woman needed. If I could earn my own way, pay my own rent, and never rely on anyone, no one could ever hurt me. That illusion shattered the night I found out the person I trusted most had built his success on my sacrifices and my silence. The apartment was too quiet for a Thursday. Usually, at this hour, Daniel's voice echoed through the hall as he wrapped up yet another late-night client call. He liked people to hear him talk, liked the weight of his own authority. I used to admire that confidence. Now, it grated like sandpaper against a bruise. I'd just come home from my second shift, exhaustion hanging on me like a wet coat. My scrub smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee. I'd been working at the hospital since sunrise, then tutoring part-time at the community college. My body was tired, but my mind wouldn't stop buzzing. Something felt off. His car was parked outside, but the living room lights were dim, and his phone, the one he always kept face down, was lying on the kitchen counter. Unlocked. Daniel never left it unlocked. My stomach twisted. I didn't go looking for anything, not at first. I just stood there, listening. The hum of the refrigerator. The faint click of the ceiling fan. Silence where his voice should have been. Then a soft vibration against the counter made me glance down. A message flashed across the screen. Still thinking about last night. You're unreal. For a second, I thought my eyes had misread it. My pulse stuttered. Then another message came through. He suspects anything? The sender's name was Clara, accounting. I didn't open the phone. I didn't need to. The air around me felt heavier, charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. I just stood there staring at that screen, my reflection warped in its glass. My breath came in short, uneven pulls. Clara, the woman he'd said was barely competent, but harmless. The one he worked late with, mentoring, according to him. Mentoring. The irony was so sharp it almost made me laugh. I set the phone down and walked toward the bedroom. The door was ajar. Inside, the faint scent of her perfume lingered, floral, powdery, unfamiliar. Not mine. The bed looked freshly made, but the sheets were wrong, tucked too perfectly, the way I never did them. He'd cleaned up, as if neatness could erase what had happened. I sank onto the edge of the bed, my mind spinning backward through years of moments that suddenly looked different under this new light. The late nights, the cold showers, the excuses about networking events that ran past midnight. The way he pulled away when I reached for him in bed, saying he was just stressed from work. My chest felt hollow. Not even pain, just a slow, spreading emptiness. When I met Daniel 5 years ago, I was still that girl who worked 2 jobs, hustling to stay afloat. He admired that about me. He called me the most self-made woman he'd ever met. He said I reminded him of who he wanted to become. I took that as love. Maybe it was at first. But somewhere along the way, admiration curdled into competition and competition into contempt. He started climbing faster than me. Promotions, bonuses, recognition. And I cheered him on, even when he forgot our anniversary, even when he said I should let him handle the finances because he was better with numbers. I didn't question it. I trusted him. Now I couldn't tell whether the ache in my chest came from betrayal or humiliation. Maybe both. The front door opened. I froze. Emma. His voice echoed through the hallway. Calm, confident. The voice of a man who didn't know the world had just shifted. I walked out slowly. You're home early. Yeah, he said, loosening his tie. Client dinner got canceled. You just get in. I nodded. My eyes flicked toward the phone still sitting on the counter. His followed instinctively. I saw the faint flicker of recognition in his face, a tightening around the eyes, a small swallow. And I knew. He tried to play it off. Everything okay? I tilted my head. Should I be asking you that? His smile faltered. What do you mean? I didn't answer. I walked past him, picked up the phone, and handed it to him. You left this unlocked. He took it too quickly. Oh, thanks. He was already moving to turn it off when I said, quietly, Clara messaged you. The air between us went still. Then, softly, he laughed. You went through my phone? I didn't have to. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. He rubbed his jaw, avoiding my eyes. Emma, listen, this isn't what you think. Then what is it, Daniel? My voice trembled despite me. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like I've been working myself to exhaustion while you've been. He cut me off. Don't make this dramatic. It wasn't like that. Then how was it? My voice cracked. Explain it to me. He sighed, exasperated. We were drunk. It happened once. I told her it was a mistake. I stared at him, every word slicing deeper. Once. He didn't answer. That silence was its own confession. I laughed bitterly. You think I'm stupid, don't you? No, I think you're tired. You've been working too much. You've been distant. There it was. The reversal. The guilt turned inward. So this is my fault? I whispered. He didn't answer. Something inside me shifted then. The shock gave way to something quieter, colder. Clarity. I realized this wasn't just about cheating. It was about years of me pouring everything into a man who took and took until I forgot what it felt like to receive. I walked past him, heading for the door. Where are you going? He asked. For air. He didn't stop me. That told me everything. Outside, the night was damp and cold. I walked without direction, down the empty street lined with flickering streetlights. My hand shook. I wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. My mind replayed every moment I defended him to my friends. Every night I'd convinced myself that love was just hard work. Somewhere deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of it. Daniel wasn't the kind of man who let go easily, but neither was I. When I finally came home hours later, he was asleep, or pretending to be. The phone was gone. The apartment smelled faintly of bleach, as if he'd tried to scrub the air itself. I stood there, watching him in the half-dark. The man who'd once sworn he'd never hurt me. The man who'd said we were equals. And as I watched, a realization hit me harder than the betrayal itself. He wasn't just unfaithful. He was using me. He'd built his success on my labor, my income, my sacrifices. Every bill I'd covered so he could invest in his future. Every night I'd worked double shifts while he studied. I'd been his stepping stone, and Clara was just his next one. The anger rose slow and steady, like a tide that would not recede. I went to the mirror and looked at myself. My face was pale, drawn, but my eyes were steady. I've supported myself since I was 16, I whispered to my reflection. I can survive this too. And yet, a small, cruel voice in my mind asked, but at what cost? The morning after was quiet, too quiet. Daniel acted like nothing had happened. He made coffee, packed his laptop bag, and kissed the top of my head as if our world hadn't cracked open the night before. That false normalcy, his ability to perform, made me sick. I watched him leave, his tie perfectly knotted, his shoes shining. He didn't even glance back. And I knew with eerie certainty that he believed I'd stay, that I'd forgive him the way I always forgave his carelessness. He was wrong. I didn't cry. Instead, I made a list. It was something I'd done my whole life. List to stay organized, to survive. Rent, groceries, deadlines. Now it was a plan. Every ounce of heartbreak hardened into focus. By noon, I'd taken half the day off work and gone through our shared files. His business venture, the one I'd invested in with my savings 2 years ago, was finally profitable. The accounts were under his name, but I'd done all the back-end, branding, setup, legal paperwork. I knew every password, every document. That company existed because of me. And while he was out playing house with Clara, I'd been running his future from behind the scenes. The betrayal wasn't just romantic. It was professional, and I wouldn't let him walk away with everything. I spent hours combing through our records, my fingers trembling but steady enough to uncover what I suspected. He'd transferred ownership of the intellectual property last month, to himself, quietly, legally, while I'd been covering rent and groceries. He hadn't just cheated on me, he'd erased me. That night, he came home late. I sat waiting, a cup of tea gone cold beside me. Hey, he said carefully. Can we talk? Go ahead, I replied. He sat across from me, his expression somewhere between guilt and calculation. Look, about Clara, what happened was stupid. It's over. It didn't mean anything. I tilted my head. You said it happened once. He hesitated. Twice. But that's not. I laughed softly. Twice. Just twice. Like repetition somehow redeems it. Emma, please. Don't do this. I made a mistake. You've been distant and I. There it is again, I interrupted. My fault. He exhaled sharply, his patience thinning. I'm trying here. No, Daniel, I said quietly. You're trying to manage me. That startled him. His jaw flexed. You're overreacting. I found the transfer documents, I said simply. His face froze. What? The ones where you took full ownership of the company. The one I built with you. He stood abruptly. You shouldn't have gone through those. I shouldn't have to. You should have told me. He ran a hand through his hair. You don't understand. I had to do it for investors. They wanted a single name on the paperwork. Then why not mine? Because you wouldn't know how to handle it. That sentence landed with the precision of a knife. Not shouted, not cruelly delivered, just dismissive, as if all my work, all my nights of exhaustion were ornamental. I built that system, I said, my voice trembling. I designed every process, every client workflow. He crossed his arms. You helped. Don't exaggerate. Helped. The word lodged in my throat. I wanted to scream, but something inside me refused to give him that satisfaction. Instead, I smiled, slowly, deliberately. You're right, I said. I do overreact sometimes. His expression softened, relieved. I know you're hurt, but I just need some time, I interrupted, standing up. Maybe a few days apart. You should stay at your sister's. He frowned. That's not necessary. I insist. He hesitated, sensing something off, but eventually nodded. Fine, if that's what you need. When the door closed behind him, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. My reflection caught in the dark window, calm, detached, terrifyingly clear. The next 2 days I moved in silence. While he was gone, I made copies of every document, every email proving my contribution. I met with an attorney I'd once tutored in law school. I explained everything, quietly, factually. She didn't need convincing. By the end of the week, I'd filed an injunction freezing Daniel's assets until an ownership hearing could be held. When Daniel found out, he came storming through the door. What the hell did you do? I didn't flinch. Protected myself. You're going to ruin me. No, Daniel, I said evenly. You did that yourself. His fury melted into panic. You're doing this because of Clara? I stared at him for a long, quiet moment. No, I'm doing this because you made me believe that love was partnership when it was really servitude. He laughed bitterly, shaking his head. You think anyone will believe you built that system alone? I don't need them to believe, I said. I have proof. For once, he was speechless. The silence that followed was almost sacred, a requiem for the version of us that could have been. He left that night. I didn't watch him go. 3 months later, I sat in the same apartment, surrounded by half-packed boxes. The court had ruled in my favor. The company, now legally registered under both our names, was being bought out for a 7-figure deal. My share was more than enough to start over. And I did. But success didn't taste the way I thought it would. It was quieter, sadder, the kind of victory that comes with an ache under the ribs. One afternoon, I got an email from Clara. Emma, I don't expect forgiveness, but I thought you should know he's doing it again. With another woman from work. He told her you were cold. Just thought you'd want to know the truth. I stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. It wasn't anger I felt anymore, it was pity. Pity for her, for whoever came next, and even for the man who mistook manipulation for love. That night, I walked to the river that ran behind our old building. The city lights shimmered against the water like broken glass. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I took a deep breath and whispered to the wind, You didn't break me, Daniel. You built me. It wasn't revenge that set me free. It was reclaiming the narrative he'd tried to steal. When I got home, I opened my laptop and started designing again. A new project, a new company, mine alone this time. I named it 16, because that was the age I first learned how to survive without anyone's help. And this time I wasn't surviving. I was building something that couldn't be taken. As I hit save, I realized something that made me smile. The woman he betrayed no longer existed. The woman who replaced her didn't need his apology, or his approval, or his name. And that, I think, was the truest justice of all.